Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to do a little different. Evie's having her birthday party because her birthday's in the summer, so we do it in the middle of the year so all of her friends can kind of come to it because once summer happens, it gets a little bit crazy. So we're having her birthday party tonight, and we're going to prep up a cake, some Rice Krispie treats, and some Aunt Aggie's, the ones that we've made earlier in this week. We're going to bake them up for her party. So let's start by getting our cake ready and made so we can get that baking, and then we'll make frosting for it so we can decorate it in a little bit. We're just going to make a really delicious basic vanilla cake. That will be amazing. So let me grab some of my butter that I have over here sitting. Let me get my softest ones. And I'm going to need 3/4 of a cup of butter, which is going to be 1.5 sticks. So let me grab a knife to cut one in. And then we're going to cream our sugar and our butter together for this. We're going to use 1.5 cups of sugar, and we'll cream that into our 3/4 cup of butter. And I am using salted butter. And then we're going to dye it kind of pink colors because Evie wanted everything kind of like a pink spa day birthday party for this. Having a sleepover, so everybody pray for me. So we've got our butter in here. We're going to do 1.5 cups of sugar. I know I was going through, I'm like, what kind of cake? And it took her forever to finally decide. And she's like, just plain vanilla. And I'm like, couldn't have figured that out sooner, but that's okay.
You have a question? What are you making for the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl, I will do my famous chili, wings, like chips and dip, like guacamole. And then I always do lots of little like cornbread, some other little sides, changes. I'll do a big charcuterie and there. So I always have like my main staple, which is my chili and my wings and cornbread. But then I, change up a little bit every year. So, but it will be delicious. And we're going to cream our sugar into our butter. We're going to make sure that gets nice and mixed in. And then we'll add in our eggs on here and then our buttermilk. Let me grab a spatula to push that down because we want to make sure that butter gets fully creamed in order to get the texture. Now, you want to make sure you use softened butter for this on there. But you don't want your butter to be melted because you want it to melt while it's baking so that it just does like the right melting at the right time. I'll take a little bit because it's not a huge amount of butter for the sugar, but once it gets there, it will be perfect. Again, I'm going to push down and get it here. On there. So I've been like watching my little Amazon delivery because her packages for her party got delayed and they're coming today. And I'm like, ooh. And I finally got the update. It kept saying, arriving tomorrow, arriving tomorrow. And I finally got it. It will be here between 4 and 8. And I'm like, perfect. It's all of her. It's a spa day party. So we're going to be making some bath bombs and some lip gloss and some homemade perfume with the girls. And I was like, please arrive, because otherwise I'm going to have to pull some tricks out of my bag. Okay, this should be pretty good on here. Okay, we're going to mix in our eggs, and then we'll add in our buttermilk kind of for the base of this. So it uses a good amount of eggs in this cake. We're going to use 3 eggs. So we have 1, and I'm going to turn this on, and we'll let it mix in 1 egg at a time. But the nice thing about this cake is you don't have to separate your eggs and whip them up and fold them in. This is a nice, easy cake in that sense. But it's delicious. It's just a light, fluffy vanilla cake, really simple. And it doesn't require too many crazy ingredients. We'll have those 3 eggs creaming in. Just turn it up a little bit higher now. Perfect. Use my spatula. Kind of push everything down because, again, I want it to mix in well. Now, for this cake, you typically use buttermilk, but again, most people don't just have buttermilk lying around. So I always do if I don't have it, I just do my little like mock faux blend of buttermilk, which is a mixture of whole milk and cream with some fresh lemon juice squeezed over it. And it works wonders. And the lemon juice kind of curdles up that cream a little bit to give it that nice tart and thick texture to it. Okay, let's get this going here. We're going to add in, before we add in our cream and our flour, let's add in our vanilla, our baking powder, and our salt. We're going to need about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. If you used unsalted butter, use a whole teaspoon. So this is a half, and then we're going to use a little bit more. And then for our baking powder, we're going to do about 2 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. Here we go. So 1, 2, and a 4th. Mix that in. And then vanilla, we're going to use just a teaspoon of vanilla. You can add a little bit more, but I like the very mild vanilla flavor in it. I don't want it to be too strong on here. Just a nice light touch to it. So 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll mix that in. I'm going to give this a quick whip real fast. There. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add in 2 1/4 cups of flour, but we're going to alternate adding our flour and our buttermilk in. So I have a cup of my buttermilk, which is really my mock buttermilk, which is half whole milk, half cream with a splash of lemon juice, half the juice of a lemon on it.
Question, how much sugar?
1 1/2 cups of sugar. So that's going to give it the nice sweetness for the cake. So I'm going to start by adding in 1 cup of flour. And then we'll add in half of our buttermilk mixture.
And whose birthday is it?
This is not actually Evie's birthday. It's her birthday celebration. Her birthday's in the middle of the summer, and so she never gets to really have a party with her friends during the school year because during the summer they all go off and nobody can really get together because of vacation and camps and whatnot. So we do her party during the school year at a weekend that works well for us. And then, you know, kind of splits it up. So she kind of gets the best of both worlds. Mid-year celebration. We tell it's like her half birthday celebration. Honestly, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly that her name's day is around this time. So in Sweden, it's very common to celebrate your name's day like a birthday. So they just have days that, you know, names are on because they kind of pull from like a list of like 5,000 names when you're picking names in Sweden. And you celebrate it. So you get like a cake and a present on their name's day. So I'm like, it should just be her name's day celebration for it. My name's day celebration is August 18th. I remember that, which is actually like halfway from my birthday. So, almost. Add in a little bit more of our buttermilk mixture, and then I'm going to add in my other cup of flour. We're using all-purpose flour. You don't need cake flour for this. We'll let that mix in, and then I'll add in my final little bit, and then my last 1/4 cup of our flour. And then our cake is done. We'll just get our pans prepped up, and we'll bake this in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes. And while that's baking, we are going to prep up our Rice Krispie treats. We're going to make our buttercream frosting, and then we also have some Aunt Aggie's we're baking up. We made those earlier in the week. Okay, let me push this down before we get our last bit in there. But again, this is a nice, lovely, like a vanilla butter cake, but it's light, fluffy, delicious.
When is everyone coming over?
They're going to come over after school. They're actually going to be riding, most of them are riding the bus home with Evie. Our school system, if you just send in a note, you can ride the bus home. And so that actually is kind of really nice because then people don't have to like drive and whatnot. So the party's going to start right away, whether we're ready or not. I think it'll be chaos. Chaos and chaos. We're going to add in that remaining fourth a cup of flour and put in there. I think it will be fun. Our always worry is the little boys. Teddy is just, Evie is like Teddy's favorite person ever. And he always gets very, very jealous when she has friends over. And he doesn't understand why Evie may not want to play with him during that time. And so he struggles with it a little bit. So we're going to try to make it extra special for him as well, you know, do some special things so that she can have her time. But he definitely gets a little jealous.
Can you go over the ingredients so far?
Yes. So we started off with 3/4 of a cup of butter, room temperature butter, that we creamed with 1.5 cups of sugar. Once that was creamed up, we added in 3 eggs and creamed them in nicely. Then we added in 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then 2 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. Mix those all in, and then we added our like wet and dry mixture. So we had a cup of buttermilk with 2 1/4 cups of flour. So pretty simple, basic vanilla cake recipe. It's like a butter cake, so it's nicer than gives you that bakery flavor over like a regular one that uses oil. And you know me, I love my butter and baking. So we're going to give this a nice good mix around here. Make sure, again, everything gets mixed up. But this is one that you can either do with a hand mixer or you know, like a stand mixer, because you got to cream that.
What's your plan for dinner?
Our plan for dinner, Evie has been trying to make this decision all week, and they were going through so many different things. I got a little cookie or cake batter on my eye right now. But she's going through all these different things, and it was like Chick-fil-A, pizza, sushi, and I was like, we got to nail it down. So they are going to have Chipotle for dinner because I said she could pick whatever she wanted for it. So we won't be doing a dinner stream tonight because it will be chaos and everything, but we will. We're going to do this and everything. We'll be back tomorrow. Assuming yes. Haven't heard for us by, you know, like 2 or 3 tomorrow, send help. Let's get our cakes going. Looks like I already have one guy prepped and ready. So I always line, when I'm making cakes, I'll line them with a little bit of parchment paper so that they'll flip out nice and easy. And I'm just going to use that guy as my little sample to cut out. You can just trace the bottom and then cut them, but that way they flip out really easily. And I will say, even if you have nonstick pan, do it anyways, because you don't want your cake to tear when you're flipping it out. Even with the nonstick pans, they can stick. Okay, so I've got my 3. These, I've never even measured. I think they're like 5 or 6 inches. They're like deep dish pizza tins, but I've used them for making like just a smaller cake because we are not like a huge cake family. And so these are kind of perfect. And this isn't her true birthday. This is just her birthday celebration. I was thinking she was going to ask for cupcakes, but she was like, nope, I want a cake. And I was like, okay.
I've requested Super Bowl.
What?
Strawberry shortcake.
It's because I mentioned strawberry shortcake earlier this week. If you know what, Valentine's Day is out, so the strawberries are good. So I might make strawberry shortcake because I do love a good strawberry shortcake. Okay, let's get these guys out. Normally you can put these in 2 8-inch like circle pans, but we're gonna do these in these mystery size. I'll measure them one day and tell you exactly what they are. But I find that 3 works the same as 2 8. I'm just going to take a scoop and put it in each one so that we can kind of be as even as possible. Then we'll give them, you know, level them out, give them a little shaky shake. And this will also, like, you can make cupcakes with this. You can make a like a actual like sheet pan, like a rectangle pan, 9 by 13. There you go. My brain wasn't functioning.
Yeah, what size are those pans?
I have no idea. I'm gonna say it looks like 6-inch, maybe 5-inch on the bottom, 6-inch on the top. You know what? I am not 100% sure. I bought them a long time ago and I have just never measured them. I've not been curious enough to do that, but I'm going to. I will measure them. I got them at Williams-Sonoma, and actually I didn't even buy them. These were purchased in high school by my mother in Williams-Sonoma, and somehow they have ended up at my house magically. I don't know how that happened, but they're mine now. And I use them more for cakes than I do for deep dish pizzas, but they do make a really good deep dish pizza. Okay, let's get all of this batter in. And this is, I will say, this makes like the perfect small cake. Like, you know what I mean? Because yes, it can do 2 8-layer cakes, which is like a same thing, but everybody likes the tall cake. And these just make a perfect little taller cake.
And how much butter and buttermilk?
So 1 cup of buttermilk and 3/4 of a cup of softened butter. And softened is the key because you've got to be able to cream it in. So you don't want it to be cold in there. Give it a good shaky shake. And then I realized I was going to dye it, but you know what? We'll do a little swirl on it with some things, and she'll have a marble swirl in it. So I'm just going to pull a little bit of food coloring in on this one, and then I'll stir it. So, you know what? I forgot to do it a little bit earlier, but no problem. We'll just have a marble effect. There we go. And let me grab a little bit of a knife and we'll swirl. And that way we'll have this kind of marble effect in it. It'll be pretty. There we go. And pretty. We'll do this one. It's kind of like when you do the brownies with the cream cheese swirl on it or the mint swirl. You don't need a lot, but you can definitely add it in.
Are you making a lunch today?
I'm not making a lunch today because we have lots of snacks galore, and we're going to be doing Chipotle for dinner, and we have cake and snacks galore. I made the mistake of having my daughter pick out all of these delicious treats. I said, tell me what snacks you want, talk with your friends. Well, apparently they thought that meant every snack they could possibly want in their mind. We're going to pop these in. We have bags and bags of snacks over there on the table. And they picked out the most ridiculous things. These are going to go in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes on here. Let them bake up. I'm going to set my timer on here. There we go. Got that going. But I was like, you know what? Let's try to be good. Make it there so that we aren't just complete gluttons today on there, because I was a glutton for my birthday earlier this week.
You have a couple concerned people about what I'm going to do with no lunch.
You know, yeah, he told me, he was like, he said I have to order him 2 Chipotle burritos. Maybe 3. And I said, those things are expensive. They're like $20 a burrito. And I said, he can eat some of the Rice Krispie treats and the cookies and whatnot. He'll just have to hold off on there. Okay. While those are baking, let's get our buttercream going, because buttercream, delicious, but takes forever. Needs lots of whipping. If you have a KitchenAid, I highly recommend getting a second bowl. Or if you have a parent who has the same KitchenAid as you and they buy a second bowl, that second bowl can automatically just come to your house. It's what I do. And I always tell my mom, I'm like, when you need it, I'll bring it back over there. Because the only time her KitchenAid gets used is at Thanksgiving when I am cooking Thanksgiving dinner at her house. So I bring it over there. I bring it over because then I got to make up our mashed potatoes and our parsnips and sweet potato mash. So I was like, I can stay over here. Luckily, she only lives like 3 minutes away. Okay, we're going to put it in here. Let me grab my butter. Now, buttercream frosting, I love, 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 but it uses a lot of butter. And when I say a lot of butter, it uses a lot of butter. And this is because you need to go and cover the cake in between the layers. And, you know, you've got taste testing along the way. You want to make sure your butter's room temperature.
Marianne wants to remind you to pilfer the waffle holders.
Yeah, I know. I need to. Every time I go over there, I forget because, you know, there's some other thing I'm always over there remembering. Sometimes I just like have to go over there and just like sneak around and like, let me go shopping in her house. See, that's why it's just so nice to have parents go along. You know, just go there and I'm like, what looks nice over there? I already was talking to my husband. I was like, oh, my mom has this really nice all-clad fish pan. And I swear, she's never used it. I remember her buying it in high school. So this is like 20 years ago, guys. And it's this nice, beautiful pan that's long like this. And it has this cute little like fish on it. And I was like, you know what? I really want to use that sometimes because it's such a pretty pan. So that's on my list of things to, you know, borrow. I like the term borrowing, you know. I'm a borrower. I guess. I said, and she gets to reap the benefits. She eats my food. So, you know, it's all, you know, it gets used. And I will say, I did give her one of my Le Creuset pots because she decided that she was changing her whole decor and she wanted blue. And I had a small blue Le Creuset pot. And I said, you can have it. I was like, I'll let you have it. So you know, we do trade things. I let her borrow that and I borrowed, you know, several other things. It's an equal, you know, it's a mutual, a symbiotic relationship here. Okay, we're going to add in copious amounts of butter on here. I always like to have more than enough because nothing is worse when you are making it and you don't have enough to get a good crumb coat and then your pretty coat on there. So yes, there is 2 pounds of butter. Do we necessarily eat 2 pounds of butter? Yes, we do. But this is between lots of people because it's going to be our 7 plus all of their things. And you eat a little sliver and it's a cake. Nobody's on a diet when they eat a cake. And we're skipping lunch. We're going to start whipping it up. And we're going to just let the butter whip until it's kind of light and fluffy. And then we'll add in the powdered sugar. But my buttercream is just vanilla, powdered sugar, butter, and flour. And sometimes if I do like a lemon or something else, but basic is just this simple. Let's get our Rice Krispie treats going because we're making pink Rice Krispie treats because, again, she's doing this whole pink theme. She's very into pink right now. Purple used to be her favorite color, and now it's pink. Her, like, Christmas list this year had pink on everything, like pink little bow. It's a pink little bow motif that she's very into. And it's cute, I have to say. It's very darling, like shabby chic, and I'm all for it. I like it. You know, we did her when we like built her room and like kind of renovated it. We did it with shiplap. We shiplapped all of her walls, and she has kind of like, you know, cool angles in there. And so it's got this cozy cottage. So I was like, oh, the white bows look perfect for it. Okay, we're going to melt our butter in here. Once our butter's melted, then we are going to add in 2 packs of marshmallows. Earlier, I was filling up my Rice Krispie container, and I was not paying attention, and I like dumped my marshmallows into my Rice Krispie container. I don't know why, but had to fish them all out. But we're going to use 2 10-ounce packs, so they're the kind of the big ones. Mini marshmallows work better than the big marshmallows for this.
Do you have the recipes for these things posted anywhere?
So we will post our live video on there like after a stream, so you can always rewatch this. I do have the Rice Krispies recipe card available for our members. I do know that one on there, but everybody again can watch it. And these will be, I will say, I know my Rice Krispies will definitely be in my cookbook because they're my favorite because they are the best. There. So, but everybody can always rewatch the video I'm creating because I make sure I go through all of our like ingredients amounts and how long we cook it. Once we get our butter melted, we'll put the Rice Krispies in, but you want to make sure you have a good coating of butter on top of before you put it in there. We're going to start with our powdered sugar. Don't just dump all of your powdered sugar in at one time. You need to do little by little because if you dump this in and then turn it on, you're going to be poof. And then we'll whip it and get it going here. And then we will dye it various shades of pink. I think I'm going to do like an ombre on the cake. Haven't completely decided yet. She was very, very last minute. And what, as in like this morning, I was like, you have to make a decision. I have to bake it today. And she's like, vanilla and pink. You'll make it great, Mom. And I was like, no pressure, no pressure. I know she was like everything, like the party. And she was like, I don't know, Mom, you'll do it. You'll just make a great one. And I was like, input, please. These are 10-year-old, 11-year-old girls. I am not a 10-year-old, 11-year-old girl anymore, and they're very different. Give this a good whip. And then once I've got part of my powdered sugar in, I will mix in my vanilla, but I don't like to do that right away because if you try to mix it in with the butter, it just kind of sits on top of it. And the trick is you whip your frosting for a very long time to get it light and fluffy. There we go. And of course, use room temperature butter. I'm gonna have to push it out because it looks like it went into my whisk, but no worries. Even though it was room temperature, it's the middle of winter here, so room temperature in the middle of winter is not quite room temperature in the middle of the summer. And I don't have right now, you know, my microwave is a part of my oven wall unit, and since that is decided it was going to be on the fritz and won't be fixed till next week, I have realized I don't use my microwave often, but there are certain things that I use it for, and softening butter, if I have forgotten to take it out, is one of them. And I have tried to get really creative on other ways to soften it. The other day I was like, oh, I'll just put it on my vent right above the, not a good idea. Okay, let's get that. And then, there we go. That's starting to whip in nicely. Beautiful. Let me grab a spoon rest over here. And we'll get that. So we have it here. And I will say, when your process of making things is just constantly push your butter and your sugar mixture down because it does like to stick to the sides of your bowl. And what happens is you just have butter goes to the outside and it doesn't mix in as nicely. Here. Flip that through. Now, there are so many variations that you can do. You can add in a little bit of cream for it. I like, again, the basic butter and powdered sugar and where you whip it there because it holds better, it lasts longer. You know, the cream, you risk it spoiling faster on there. And this is more when you're making decorating cakes. This version, it's a bit sturdier. Add in a little bit more. My ratios are about equal parts butter to sugar. So I'll probably use a whole bag of powdered sugar, this is a 2-pound bag, and I had 2 pounds of butter. Sometimes it just depends. We'll use a little bit more if you're using some extracts in there or you're making like a chocolate frosting or whatnot. But I typically keep mine, half and half ratio. Let's flip this guy, and then it looks like we have a good amount of our butter there that I can give it a good stir around. And then we can start adding in our marshmallows. Don't go too high on it because you don't want to have brown butter for it, although brown buttered Rice Krispies are delicious, but they have a very different flavor. There we go. Kind of break those up. Now, I feel like growing up, I always made Rice Krispie treats over the, stove, but a lot of people make them in microwave in the bowls. I find the benefit of making them in the stove is the pan stays warm, which allows you to really mix it and coat everyone up. And in the marshmallow mixture doesn't cool down as fast. So I really, really like it. And it's a pretty easy cleanup because marshmallows just dissolve in water when you're done. So you just have to fill it up and wait like 10 minutes. Okay, let's get these marshmallows in here. Again, mini marshmallows work better than the big ones just because they melt a little bit nicer. We're going to use 2 bags.
Paula sent you a pink bow.
Oh, well, thank you. I said that is probably should have worn. I was going to try to find my red apron was in the wash right now, but I was like, I should have worn my red apron. Could have put my pink on. We could be full on decked out pink. Here. I always sit there. It's funny when we redid like Evie's room a couple years ago, and she was like, I want you to paint my whole room purple. And I was just like, oh, and I was like, before when it was just walls, but shiplap, I was like, let's keep the shiplap white and we can do your decor in the other colors. And I'm so glad I did because it was like 6 months later, she was like, I don't like purple anymore. I like pink. And I was like, I am so glad we kept everything white because it's a big, crazy room. I'm stirring in our marshmallows, coating them all up with the butter, and then let them melt. Again, we got it over a nice kind of a low heat here so that it will melt up, but you don't want it to burn. Once it gets primarily melted, we'll add in some food coloring, and then we'll add in our Rice Krispies. Okay, let's give this a good whip here. Yeah. You can see it's starting to get nice and fluffy. I'm going to push it down.
Do you use salted or unsalted butter?
I like to use salted butter because that salt, I think, actually brings out the flavor and enhances it a little bit. When you use unsalted butter, I almost feel like it gets too sweet. So that salt, I think, really kind of cuts back on the sweetness. And then when we add in our vanilla here in a little bit, it's really going to bring back, really going to make it like pop. Because salt is a flavor enhancer. Okay, let's add in our vanilla. I'm going to use about a teaspoon or so of vanilla extract. Don't go too crazy on it because a little goes a long way. We're making a good amount, so a teaspoon should be more than enough. And now that we have a good amount of sugar in there, it should dissolve fairly well into it. You can see it's getting nice and fluffier. We're going to add in a little bit more of our powdered sugar. This is the final bit of our bag. And then I've got a backup one in case we need it for some more. And then start the mixing slow. And then once you get it in there, put it up high. To get the fluffy, you're going to want to go up on the highest setting and really fluff it up. Sometimes I will mix it for like 10 minutes. It's one of those things, you turn it on, you walk away, you come back, and it's wonderful. There we go. We've got that fluffing over there. Let's go give this a nice stir. Kind of mix this up. We've got these all starting to come together. There we go. And just coating it around. And just constantly stir it because you don't want the marshmallows to sit on the pan too long, or what will happen is they can burn in the spot. So just keep your temperature low and then just have a frequent stirring. Okay. Looking good here. We've already got pretty good fluff part to it. So I'm going to push down again because, like I said, little chunks of butter like to hide up on the sides of it. And then that won't mix in. And then when you try to scrape it off later, you'll have really kind of thick parts to it. But it is. I'm going to give it a quick taste. Perfect. I don't think I need any more sugar, just whipping. And I think that's a lot of times when people make it, they'll add a lot of sugar because they think, because yes, you can add more sugar and it will give you more bulk, but it makes it very, very sweet. And I don't like my frosting to be insanely sweet, but just whipping it will make it lighter and fluffier and give you more bulk. It just takes a little bit more time. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in some pink, and we're going to do light pink, and then I'll take some of the frosting out. Then we'll add in a little bit more coloring to get different shades of pink on there and whipping, which is kind of nice because you don't have to mix and do a lot of work. But I just want to push all of this down first.
So about how much powdered sugar?
I used 2 pounds of powdered sugar for 2 pounds of butter. So a lot, but because you're doing a cake, you really need enough to coat it. It's crazy, I know, but I always do for my buttercream is equal parts butter and sugar. A little crazy, but a cake is not a diet food. And when somebody tries to make a healthy cake, it's never good. And I always say, eat healthy, great. But if you're going to have a dessert, have a dessert. I said, there's no point wasting calories on a dessert that isn't good.
If you're going to be a bear, be a good
boy. I know, exactly. Or be a teddy bear. Okay, let's get this stirred up in here. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit lower. We've got our base of our marshmallows fairly melted here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my food coloring and we'll add that in. And you want to add your food coloring in now when it's there. Okay. As you can see, I am a collector of food coloring over the years. We're going to start with pink, and then we'll add a little bit more, and then we'll add some red towards the end. Oh, well, not for this, but for that. But we'll do pink in here. I'll start with a little bit, and then we'll add a little bit more in here. Because you got to have your nice pretty and pink. Look how pretty it is. And these are perfect for Valentine's. I started saying, I'm like, oh, this is such a Valentine's Day thing. And it just happens to be, that's what Evie picked. Look how pretty. I think this is perfect. This is actually kind of what she wanted. I don't think we need any more. Look at that. So I'm going to turn my heat off because it is all melted. And we're going to add in our Rice Krispies. So the heat is off, so this pan will stay nice and warm in here. And we are going to add in 9 cups of Rice Krispies. Lock in. I know. I'm going to say, I am going to count and not talk because I cannot count and talk at the same time. It is my Achilles heel. Counting's hard enough as it is. So we have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. See, oh look, I told you I must have missed 1 marshmallow when I was putting it in there. That'll be the special one. We'll mix it in now, and then we'll put this in our little 9 by 13 inch kind of cake pan and let it kind of cool in there. But we'll coat it all up. And that's a nice thing about doing it in a pan. This having it on the stove with the heat off keeps it nice and warm, which allows it to really coat up these these little Rice Krispies very well so that every bit gets coated. And my Rice Krispie treat ratio is very different from the box because I firmly believe you need more butter and more marshmallow per Rice Krispie. So I have a much greater ratio of rice or marshmallows and butter. And it makes the best, most delicious Rice Krispie treats. I will say I've never had a complaint. And they don't last very long. And that is when I know that they're good. I can always tell if my kids like something because sometimes my kids won't be honest and they're like, it's great. But if it's not gone in a day or two, I know it wasn't great. You know, they're like honest and they don't want to, hurt your feelings. My oldest son, he is very sweet like that. And he is to the point where he's like, too much so. And I'm like, gotta be honest because I don't want to make it again if you don't like it. And I'll know when he doesn't grab seconds or it's still there or he doesn't request it in its lunch. And I'm like, you didn't actually like it.
I think the kids lie about the salmon. So.
No, they don't lie about the salmon. It was like last night dinner Torn loved. And he was like, Mama, can I have that in my lunch? And I was like, of course you can. I put this in our pan, spray it with like some, olive oil, butter, or whatnot, because it allows the Rice Krispies, when you go to cut them, to just pop right out. You can flip it over and it'll fall out once it cools.
What are your kids' ages?
So I have quite the collection. My oldest is, yes, I have a collection of children. There's a lot of them. My oldest is 15, soon to be 16 in a couple weeks. And then I have a 14-year-old son who's like 6'1" and is a giant, a 10-and-a-half-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And he really fully embraces the 2-year-old motto and way of life.
Can you go over what's on the Rice Krispies?
Yes. So our Rice Krispies are 1 stick of butter with 2 10-ounce packs of marshmallows, the mini ones. You're going to let those melt up. Butter melted, then the marshmallows, and then 9 cups of Rice Krispies. We added in some pink food coloring to make these nice and pretty pink for Evie's little birthday party here, but they're just my basic. But that's it. Just 3 simple ingredients for just the best. Some people will add in vanilla or other things. I keep it simple. Okay, let's get that on here. What we're going to do is we're going to get parchment paper and press it down because that is very, very crucial. Where did I put it? Right here. Do not use wax paper. I have found wax paper. It's not a non-stick surface like parchment paper, and it will stick to it. Parchment paper. We're going to push it down, and you need to make sure you push all of it down, get out the gap so that your Rice Krispie is compacted, because if you don't do this, and you need to do it while it's still warm, your Rice Krispie will be too fluffy, and then when you try to cut it, it won't hold its shape. So this is a very important step. And just push it down firmly. Now, if you want to add sprinkles or mini M&Ms to the top of it, you would just sprinkle it on and then press it down right before then. My kids just like it plain, but I know lots of people like to make it a little bit more jazzy. Okay, and then while it's still warm, you pull it off and look at those. Perfectly pressed down, except that one corner. There we go. Beautiful. Baby pink, exactly what she wanted. Look at that. Got that checked off my list. Look at this, making my progress. Okay, let's get this frosting finished up here. We're going to start with our food coloring. Let's add a little bit of pink in here. We'll do our first one, then we can take some of the frosting out. And then we'll add a little bit more, and then we'll add some red in and get that little ombre effect so that when we frost it, we'll have lots of different kind of colors in it, of pink in it. So here's a very nice light baby pink. There we go. Beautiful. I'll just scoop out a little bit. Let me grab a bowl. And then we'll add some more food coloring in. And I will say, the ombre technique is a really easy technique to do that isn't having to do a bunch of different bowls of colors and whatnot. It's like one of my simple, easy favorites. Now, you could put this in a piping bag, but we don't need to do that. We just need a little bit for when I put it on there. Because what I'm going to do is we'll do our crumb coat with our final one, and then I'll put little splotches around, and then I'll do a scrape so it kind of blends in nicely together. Very simple, but elegant design. That should be enough for that, because again, this isn't a super huge cake. So we've got our baby pink there. Now we're going to add in a good amount more because we needed to change a couple shades. So like a lot more than that one. And then the last one, what we'll do is you add in a little bit of red to get a slightly stronger color. There we go. Mix that in. And then I'm just going to take my spatula here and I'm just going to press down some on the sides here. But you can see. And the crazy thing with food coloring is the more you whip it in, the brighter the color gets because it actually incorporates the pigment pixels in more. It's a fun little fact.
Can you repeat the ingredients for the frosting?
Yes. So this is a very, very simple frosting. So I do equal parts butter and powdered sugar. So I have a good amount in here because we're making a cake and girls, you need frosting. So I have 2 pounds of butter and 2 pounds of powdered sugar. So yeah, just a little bit. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And now we're whipping it together for it. Nice high, good whip on it. Beautiful. Now we'll take this out and we'll see it when I put it in the bowl. You'll see that it's a good shade darker. And then the last one that we'll do, I'm going to add some red to it, which will make it a bit stronger in the colors. But you see how they're, you know what? Should I add a little bit more or are they good? Are they good enough? Do you think a little more?
A little more.
A little more. It looks darker in the bowl, but once I pulled it out, not quite. Okay. Let me get this good amount in here. I always say, you need a lot to go up to the next shade. Flip it in there. But I don't want to go to red yet. Because red, a little bit of red is going to go a long way. I'll do a little bit of drops of this. There we go. We'll add this in. Okay. I always like it when I'm finally getting through a pack of food coloring. Because, you buy and you always use certain colors. Ooh, our cake is ready to come out. So we'll let that whip and then we'll get our cake out.
Is it possible to over whip the...
No, that's the one thing about this. Because it's just butter and flour, the longer you whip it, the lighter and fluffier it gets. Sometimes I'll whip it for 10, 15 minutes to get a really fluffy, light one. So I'm going to pull it up there. I'm going to grab my cake out here. Let me get a nice touch first. You know what? It needs 5 more minutes. It's got a little thing. So let me put my timer on here. There we go. See, I'm so used to that oven that I've got to figure out this oven cooks a little bit different. You know how you have, there's my bowl. You have one oven and you're so used to it. This one.
Can you go over the Rice Krispie recipe?
Yes. So for our Rice Krispies, this is my favorite combination. So we start off with 1 whole stick of butter, and you're going to melt it. Then you're going to add in 2 10-ounce packs of mini marshmallows. And then once you've got those mixed in and melted, you're going to add in 9 cups of Rice Krispies. Mix that up, and then you're going to put them in a 9 by 13-inch baking dish. Make sure you coat it with a little bit of olive oil or butter so that you have your nice kind of, like it will be a nonstick surface on it. There we go. That's a good difference in color. Beautiful. Okay, let's get this last one, which will make a shade darker for this. And then we got to cut up and bake up our Aunt Aggie's. Then our cake should be coming out of the oven for that. Now for this one, to get to that even darker pink color, we're going to add our red in. Start with a little bit of red because a little goes a long way.
I think you called it sugar earlier, but
powdered sugar. Yes, yes. You want to use regular or powdered sugar because regular sugar, you'll just have a grainy thing. Okay. Let's add this in little by little till we get to that nice kind of a brighter. You can see it's getting a little bit more darker and darker as we go. But it's crazy how much food coloring you need to get these really bright colors. There we go. I think I'll pull it out and then we'll see, but this will be the base under it, and then we'll have those ombre colors on it. Yeah, we still need more. Isn't that crazy how much we've already added, and we still need more. Okay, I'm going to do a good squeeze here. And get that in there. Throwing a little bit more. Get our pink going. Okay, I can see it getting a little bit richer now. Should be good. Looking good. I'm going to do a swipe down all the way around.
Are you making anything specific for Valentine's?
For Valentine's, I typically always make, steak on there. And, I haven't decided 100% certain what my whole menu is. I've kind of been craving like chocolate dipped strawberries, and it just seems like such a Valentine's Day thing. I know my husband's like, that's such a weird thing, and I'm like, it is, but kind of really want some, so I might do that. But I don't really know. I do know that my son has a basketball game on Valentine's Day at 7 p.m. I'm not sure who decided to schedule that. I'm going to say because it's for my sons, it was clearly a guy. I'll see if we just got the update. We'll see how long that actually lasts. So that's a good shade darker. Let's get these in here. This is the base cake. So this is going to go on the full one, and those are going to add little pops of ombre colors to it. Get this all off. I'll wash my hands. We'll get our cake out here in just a second. I'll use this. And then we'll let our cake chill. We've got our Aunt Aggie's that we're going to bake up here. Look at this. Beautiful. But you see how light and fluffy it is? And it's just butter and powdered sugar, but whipping it is what makes it so light and fluffy. That's why I always say you got to whip it for a good amount of time to get that. Beautiful. Okay. This should be good. Oh, I want to keep that actually on because our Aunt Aggie's are going to bake. Let me grab my oven mitts. Here are my new alligators. The boys have been really, really loving these. Let's get out and see. So, yep, that looks good. On here, these are, yep, feels nice and firm. Our vanilla cake, we put a little pink swirl in them to give them a nice little marble. Perfect. So they are lovely, beautiful. When we make our cakes, of course, we will cut the tops off so we have nice flat top, but you can always save those cake tops to make cake pops. So they're not for wasting.
Can you go over what's an Aunt Aggie cookie?
An Aunt Aggie cookie is our little hybrid of a butter cookie, sugar cookie deliciousness. I'm going to grab our dough out of the fridge right now. I took it out of the freezer, but I kept it in there to keep it nice and kind of firm. We prepped these up earlier in the week. They are kind of a cookie you keep in your freezer, and then when you're ready to bake them up, you slice and bake. They bake at 350 for about 8 minutes. They are probably our family's favorite cookie. And it's because they're very simple. They go like crazy. I'm doing 2 logs because our family, just us, will eat 1 log in like a day because they're so, so good. You grab a cutting board to cut these. But they're just, the only way I can truly describe them, because they're simple but unique, is just a hybrid between a butter and a sugar. They're not as sweet as a sugar cookie. They're not as rich as a butter cookie, but they're just this happy medium. We did these kind of in Evie's kind of birthday colors. We've got pink, purple, because she wanted some purple in there, and then white on this one. And then the other one is purple and pink, although our pink is more reddish, but once it'll bake up, it'll be a little bit lighter. I've got my baking sheets. What we're going to do is we will put our parchment paper down, and then I'll cut and we can bake, and then we'll cut up the next one. Where did I put it? There it is. It's right next to me. And then hopefully once these have cooled for about 5 minutes, we should be able to take them out. You don't want to leave your cakes too long in the cake pan, but you don't want to take them out right when they're out, because if you take them when they're right out of the oven, then they can stick. So you have to wait that kind of Goldilocks stage. So these are a slice and bake. We're going to slice them. As you can see, we've got this beautiful, cool design. This was our marble effect on them. So you'll get a little bit of each kind of color in it. And then our next one, I think we did a purple and red marble, or purple and pink on it. But they're really pretty. You don't have to dye them. You can use just, keep the simple white color to it. But I always like to add in fun colors for the holidays, as well as for, the kids' like birthdays or whatnot. And these are something that I make whenever I make them. I always make a big double batch of them, because whenever my kids are like, oh, can I have cookies? I can take these out and have cookies ready in less than 10 minutes, because you just bake them up at 350 for 8 minutes and they're done. So pretty simple and delicious. They're really, really simple dough. It's just butter, egg yolks, sugar, baking soda, cream of tartar. Like, that is all that's really in it. So very simple ingredients from my husband's family, from, I guess, Aunt Aggie from the 1800s. It's been around for a while. Nobody really knows who Aunt Aggie was, but her cookies have lived on. Okay. We'll spread these cookies. They don't spread out too much, so you don't have to worry about putting a huge gap between them. They do spread out just a teeny bit, but not terribly. And I will say, they are a really pretty cookie, especially when you can do the little marbling effect in them. Get these guys. And what's So the cream of tartar is what you mix in there. That helps keep its shape so they don't spread out too much when you are baking them up.
Can you go over the ingredients for the cookies?
Yes. So they are, it's just butter. I'm trying to say butter, sugar, eggs, and cream of tartar and baking soda. So if I'm remembering correctly on the top of my head, it is, I believe, in flour. You'll have to go. This is a recipe card that we made available for everybody. So I'll have to search on there for a freebie on there for it. But it is a hit. Last time I made them, I always make a double batch. So I was like sitting here remembering what's the double batch and what's the single batch one. Okay, let's pop these in 8 minutes and then we can lay out the rest of them, get them on. But I always like to bake my cookies on the top rack versus doing like a double. So timer, 8 minutes. Let's get this guy. And don't bake them any longer. Let's get these guys off of our things so they can cool a little bit faster. That way we'll be ready to make our cake nice and pretty. I'm going to put a little bit of parchment paper down. That way they won't stick to the cutting board that you have them on. You could also do it on a baking sheet. Since we did put them on our things, they should slide out just like this. You pull off that parchment paper. Wonderful. Beautiful. And that's why you give them this, again, is thing. And you have to wait that like 5-minute window while the pans are still hot, but they're not piping hot. It has a chance to retract, but they're not, again, on there.
What kind of cake is this?
This is just a basic vanilla cake. It's a butter cake, so we didn't use any oil. It's just eggs, butter, sugar, flour, vanilla, and baking powder, salt. So very, very simple recipe. We swirled in some pink food coloring at the last minute to give it a nice little pink marble effect to it. But darling and cute. Let me slide these in the refrigerator to cool off real quick so that they'll be ready to decorate in a few minutes. And actually, see if I can pop them in here. Do I have enough room? No. Fridge they go. There. Perfect. And let those cool. And that way they'll be cool enough to decorate it because we'll have kids here in just a little bit. Let's get our next batch out and baking up. And then we'll get ready for this. So we'll lay these out. And when I cut them, I kind of cut them with this thickness. Now, when you shape them up, I don't make them super huge. That way you could eat multiple of them and you don't feel guilty, because about 3 or 4 of these equals like a regular size cookie. They're fairly small. And that way you can have a lot. And I find the little ones work better, but you can definitely make a thicker, like wider one. They do have to bake a little bit longer when you make them a little bit bigger, but if you like the bigger cookies, you can definitely make them a little wider. So when I make them, we put them in our press and seal. You can do saran wrap, but then you just wrap them up and you twist them, and then they just pop right in your freezer. The press and seal works really well, as you can see, because it doesn't like to release itself. Release the cookies. And I will tell you, my kids love this cookie dough. And one thing about this cookie dough, it has a nice set of richness from it, because instead of using whole eggs to it, you use egg yolks. So it's a richer cookie, and it's, again, it's just butter, sugar, flour, egg yolks, cream of tartar, baking soda, and sugar. Simplicity. So here is just 2 of the colors. At Christmas time, I'll do like white, green, and red. If my team ever made it to the Super Bowl, I would do purple and yellow, but maybe next year. always next year. I think that's the Vikings motto. And maybe they should coin it. Maybe next year. There we go. We get this on here and nice and ready, but again, so pretty. This one, what I did is I made 2 rows and then I put it back on top so you can get that double marble effect on it. Okay, we got that. We can cut up the rest of these, and it looks like we'll have enough to make up our 3 little trays because I did my smaller trays versus my bigger ones. And then we can get our cakes out here because they should have enough time to cool off here, kind of get them going. There. Voila. This is always a trick. If I leave this around and I walk out, my kids will come around and steal these.
You have a question? Did you make this cookie dough?
I did. This is my Aunt Aggie's recipe. So we do have this recipe card available for everybody. We also made this up on our stream earlier in the week. Was it 2 days ago, I believe? Time flies. But again, super simple. It is one that you have to freeze. So you make it and then you at least 6 hours because it has to firm up completely so that it's nice and cold when you break it up. That gives you the best kind of cookie on it because if you bake it when it's soft, it runs too much. Delicious. They are, I will say, like a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. We have a batch in there baking up right now, which we will kind of get out. I'm going to see. Actually, we'll probably pop these in underneath them. We can kind of do a little thing going there. And then we're going to get our cakes out. I'll cut the tops off and get those ready because they've hopefully cooled off just enough. And then we can put these on the last one in just a second here. Let me go grab another baking sheet out. That way I'll have that ready for it. Down to my baking sheets, down to my little ones. Where did I put my big one? Everything because my oven is, I've got everything backwards because my wall unit, hopefully guys next week. It's so funny. My stepdaddy was like, what are you going to do for the Super Bowl? And I'm just like, I've been cooking Super Bowl dinner for a very long time. And I've only had this wall unit for like 2 years. Trust me, I can survive. But that was my first thought in my mind. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I'm like, you have another oven. It's not the oven you prefer, but you have one. It's funny how it is. You have something that you like, and so you use that over, And this is a perfectly capable oven. This is my bread proofing oven and my oven storage. Okay, let's get these. Slide these on. Oh, perfect. I actually didn't need, because I don't have all that much left for it. Okay, I can think. I'm good. I can get another row in there. I don't want them too close because I know they'll puff up a little bit, but okay. We'll have these bake up in just a second. And I'm going to grab my, well, you know what? These are about to come out. So let me grab my oven mitts on and we can get that batch out. I'll grab a pot holder or a little trivet to put these on. And you can see what they look like when they come out of the oven because they do grow a little bit in size. There we go. I'm going to just put these right up here. And you can see we've got our, I'll go fun with our little theme here with our pink Rice Krispie treats. And turn that off. There we go. Here. Beautiful. So here are our Aunt Aggie's cookies. You bake them up. I'm going to move these next one up. I'll slide this batch in underneath. I'm going to put my timer on for 6 minutes. Now these cookies, again, you have to let them sit on your tray for about, I would say, let me clear that off. About 5 to 10 minutes before you eat them because they need to firm up. Otherwise, if you try to pick them up right now, what would happen is they would like fall apart. See, let me try this again. I'm so not used to this timer over here. My other timer on my microwave. There we go. Got it. Took me a minute. It's a unique one. Let me grab my cake out. We're going to prep it up and we can start frosting here. Should be cooled off just enough.
Can you go over what type of cookies you've done?
Again, yes, these are our Aunt Aggie's cookies, which are a family favorite. They are a hybrid between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. So they're not as sweet as a sugar cookie, but they're not as rich as a butter cookie, but they are like that happy, like, you know, if they had a baby, it would be that cookie. Let's get these right here. Pretty cooled off here. Let's get a nice little base to kind of cut the tops off and do our stacking and then our kind of our base coat here and get that kind of going. Let me grab my little spatula that I do for, where is it? Haha.
And how long do you bake the cookies for?
8 minutes at 350 degrees. Don't go anymore because these are a cookie that you bake them for just that thing. They're going to look, if you try to pick them up now, they'd be soft and you think, oh, they need to bake more. They just need to sit. And once they've sat on your baking sheet, after about 5-10 minutes, they'll be soft and perfect. Okay, let's get our cakes going here. So we always take off the top of our cake. That way it will stack nice. And I know it's kind of sad because this, everyone knows, is the best part of it. But here's our pretty little marbling. You don't have to get rid of this. You can definitely just put frosting on it and eat it. A lot of times I will make a mini kind of layer cake with this. If you get a little biscuit cutter and you can cut out little circles here and you can put it in there and make your own little cake with it. But you definitely need to cut it off. Otherwise, it just won't stack up nicely. But so good. So delicious. My little boys, this is their favorite when I'm doing cake. They always are coming for that. Okay, this is our base one. I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom. This is to hold it on so that it doesn't go slipping and sliding. I'm going to take this one and we're going to put it down here because this one got a little smushed on here. Now this is just going to be my crumb coat, which means we'll put it on, we'll scrape it, and then we'll chill it. And then I'll do a little short of the final one because your crumb coat has to sit in the fridge for, you know, a good like 20 or 30 minutes to firm up. But we can get at least the base on it. So just a nice little layer in here. You don't need too much between, but kind of coat it in here. So it's still a little warm, but guess what? The butter melts into it and makes your cake a little bit rich, but it won't be so much that it will completely melt it. There we go. And then I'm going to do a nice thick layer here. Again, it's nice and fluffy, so it will kind of compact down once you put that top one on. There we go. Get my fingers real quick. And we've got about 2 more minutes. So I've got my cakes right here. And now I'm just going to do my crumb coat on here. So I'm going to put a kind of a big piece right here. And we're going to do kind of a wrap around. And then I'm going to grab my brush and kind of brush it thin. And then we're going to pop it and chill it until it firms up. You're going to want to use a nice thin spatula like this. And this will allow it to kind of run thin around. There we go. And I'm hoping I can get it. It's a little warm, but it should sit still for this, which is fine. I just want it to chill up because it's the last coat that is the final one. And so this is fine. But they're going to be here in like 30 minutes. So we're kind of a rush against the time here. So we're going to slide it around. This is your one that you're going to scrape, and it's going to just be on there. There we go. For this. So we've got our crumb coat coming on here. This is our buttercream frosting. let me grab our cookies out of the oven real quick. Let me lick my fingers first because the frosting is really, really delicious. And then we're going to chill that so it firms up. And then that last one, it will be completely cool and it will hold on, but I need a base on there for it to stick. I told you this one, it's singing all sorts of different things. Yeah. I have left these in a minute longer. Whoops. That's okay. These will be for the little boys. This is what happens when you bake them for 1 minute too long, but still delicious. Maybe that was the first beeping timer on it. I told you this timer is weird. This is how they're supposed to look. This is if you do 1 minute. 1 minute makes a difference on here. But they'll still taste delicious. Okay. Let's get this cake, this final one. I'm going to get it frosted really quick. That way I can get it to chill up, and then I'll make a video of it once this has firmed up. The butter will harden and hold it together, and then we'll do that final coating on it. Normally, I would love to let it rest and cool completely, but Evie's friends get off the bus in like 25 minutes. So we are rushing against the time here, guys. Here we go. So we're going. I'm going to hold it here. And you know, this is when my daughter, there we go. Now we're getting it. See how it's coming together nicely? It just needed a little bit of love. My daughter always like, you have time blindness, Mom. Perfect. We're going to keep swiping it. And now with your cooking, let me grab. When you do a tier cake and it needs a little bit of help, you're just going to put in, I do this if I do like 4 or 5, but we're going to put a couple in here. Hold it together. And then we'll cut them off on there. But I'm just going to keep them on there while I do my last little bit. There we go. This will keep it holding it together. Okay. Well, let's get these guys chilled off here. Got my first round of my cake going here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go get this chilled. I'm actually going to pop it in the freezer to do a quick chill, which works really well with that. But we got our Rice Krispies done, our nice, beautiful baby pink Rice Krispies here. We made this with our special blend where we do 2 bags of mini marshmallows, a whole stick of butter, and 9 cups of Rice Krispies, and then a little bit of pink food coloring for the perfect ooey gooey Rice Krispie treats. And then we have our Aunt Aggie's cookies. We have them in our lovely pink and purple coloring for my daughter's little birthday party tonight. And then we'll finish up our cake and do a little short